In this video, I'm going to show you how to use an array fill or an array outline. And so to get started, I'm going to use my rectangle selection tool and select one of the oval shapes on my screen. And I'll just get a little closer to it. And now this is all about settings in our object properties window. You see here I have a fill and an outline choice, and I can choose array fill or I can choose array outline. And when we work with an array, it means we're going to choose from our clip art library. And so I just clicked on the array tool and my insert clip art window becomes available. And you can choose any clip art from your library. And so I'll just go ahead and pick this simple anchor and say insert. And now if I click and drag, and I'm kind of putting my green line on an angle here just to purposely do that, it puts my anchor around this shape, and it specifically did it on an angle, the angle that I drew. You see, if I do it again and I select a different oval and I choose array for my outline and I select that anchor, and notice with these shapes, these designs, that it always shows you the orientation line to draw it. So I can see that drawing straight up would give me kind of the normal orientation for the anchor, otherwise I'm rotating it. For this one, it's actually left to right. That gives you the, I guess, default orientation. Now, what I'll do is just zoom in again and show you I get to draw that green line, click and drag, and I can set the size of the anchor and I can set the orientation of it. So I'll stand this one straight up and it goes around my circle, you know, kind of with that natural orientation, versus the first one where I had it kind of on an angle. Now you can control the array with the settings. So notice now that we've created an array outline, we have the ability to choose the rotation, choose the spacing. So I could put space between these. I could rotate the anchors, or I could offset them, which means if I choose, let's say 2 millimeter offset, it's going to move it outside of my shape. And if I make a negative 2 millimeter offset, that's negative 22 millimeter, it'll bring it inside the shape. And so choosing an offset simply allows you to adjust where your array will sit in relation to the line of your shape. Now that's array outline, and with array fill, maybe I'll just grab this other circle over here. It's got, again, for the fill, a default is like a paint fill, and I'm just going to choose to have an array fill. And again, you're going to choose from your clip art library, so we'll select maybe the same anchor, and I'll just get smaller and draw an anchor, and it's going to fill in my screen, fills in that circle with anchors, which is cool. Now you have many more adjustments for this array fill than we did for array outline, and it partly is because, now let's look here in the object properties. We have the fill styles. The first setting is your style of fill, and there's shape fit, but we also have rectangle, circular, contour, line fit, and single line. Sorry, and I'll show you them all quickly. So this is rectangle. You can see it obviously fills in the shape, rows and columns. This is circular, so it fills the shape, drawing our anchor kind of around in circles. This is contour, similar to circular, but it contours around the shape and keeps our anchor kind of at its default setting. Single line, well, makes a single line. Shape fit, that kind of figures out how to fill in a shape the best it can. And then line fit isn't the last option. Now, some of these don't make sense for our circle with its anchors filled in. Others, look better than others. And that's the point of the array fill, is that depending on what shape you're using and what shape you're filling, and for that matter, we're going to learn about these tools again when we talk about crystal fills. You'll see that sometimes, these different choices just make better sense. In this case, I'm going to switch back to rectangle fill and start from there and show you that when I change to rectangle fill, the settings change, and some of them remain the same and some of them change. And so I have the same kind of offset option, item rotation, horizontal and vertical spacing, a start angle, and a slant angle. And you can mathematically change these. If I put, a millimeter space here, it'll update that on the design. If I put a millimeter of space here, it'll update that also. So I've given it, a little space between the anchors. So all of these things can be done mathematically. And again, that's going to change. If I switch this to, let's say, the circular option, then I no longer have the vertical spacing, but I do have, a new option, which is called the number of steps, which means how many sets of the anchor will it put around that circle. And so I'll just turn it down the number to 5, and you'll see that it'll update. So there's small changes in the mathematical settings between the different ones. Now, you can also use your Edit Shape Nodes tool to interact with these layouts. So for example, if I choose Edit Shape Nodes, I'm given the handles, the green handles. And we often get little handles like this when we use Edit Shape Nodes. And notice now with the 3 handles, first of all, if I click on this one, I can set that angle, the start angle. I can also set the spacing. With this one, I can set the number of steps, creating more or less anchors in the design. And with this one, I can adjust the center of the circle, where it's kind of rotating around. So you see that you have quite a bit of control, and it's much more visual this way. Now, I'll just change that back to, let's say, rectangular. And it kind of retained some of the settings that I'd made for circular. But some of them didn't apply. But we do have, the start angle's been kind of maintained. Anyway, same thing. Choose Edit Shape Nodes. And now I can change that angle. I can change my spacing. I could choose to have an offset between the anchors. And so you can quite visually adjust your array fills using the Edit Shape Node tool. So anyway, that's an introduction to using array fill and array outline, and kind of review how you use those tools. And again, we'll have the opportunity to learn more about these styles when we look at some of the different embroidery and printing techniques.